Starbound is one of those games where I really want to enjoy it, but I can't. I bought this game when it was released in early access back in 2013 and had some high hopes for this limitless space sandbox with plenty of potential, but if I'd known what it was going to turn out to be, I'd have probably held off. Look, there are some things that I like about this game, but there are certainly plenty more that I don't. I don't hate this game's concept, I think it's a great concept, but it's Chucklefish's execution that really lets it down. From the unpolished mechanics to this game's struggle with how to be a good sandbox game, Starbound is a real letdown in a number of different ways, now over 5 years after its initial release. And yeah, I've already kinda reviewed this game, but I felt the need to re-review because of the fantastic reception my first video got. Some might even say that it was clickbait, and those people would be correct. Nonetheless, I feel like there was some points left out and that the script wasn't written all that well, so looking back I really don't like the video so much. So strap yourselves in, get ready to hit that dislike button and write a nice comment telling me to kill myself, cause that's what you did last time I reviewed this game. Let's start by talking about the things that I actually like about Starbound, and there are a few. First of all is the overall design of the game. I think it looks pretty good. Pixel/voxel graphics are something that can be easily done wrong and look hideous, but Starbound does it well. The sprite work and environments are designed nicely, though some of the animation is a little bit jarring and lazy. The soundtrack also complements the game well. It's orchestrated nicely and is pleasant to listen to, as well as sort of accompanying Starbound's feel of a big open and scary universe to go and discover. My favourite thing about Starbound is the building. There are heaps and heaps of materials for you to use, and you can make some really cool structures in this game. The matter manipulator and how it works makes it really easy to do this, while still being lore friendly so as not to break your immersion at all. Swapping over from assorted tools to purely the matter manipulator as your main tool was one of the best updates they ever did to this game. Tech slots and upgrading your character's abilities is also a nice little feature which helps gives the game a better sense of progression as it slowly unlocks more regions of the universe that you can safely explore. And sadly, that's about it. As you can see, we're not very far into the video yet, so I'm sure you can see where this is headed. Why does this game have such a big overarching storyline? Why? Why did you do this, Chucklefish? Starbound is a sandbox game, so why feel the need to shoehorn such a big annoying storyline over the top of it? Take the best sandbox games, games like Minecraft, Terraria. While these games may have some lore surrounding the world, they have no storyline to follow. You don't have to follow a set path, you do whatever the hell it is that you want to do. Starbound, are you a sandbox or are you an RPG? Can you answer that question? No, you can't, because you're an unholy amalgamation of both. Yeah, I get you don't have to necessarily complete the whole thing, but the beginning of this game sets up this precedent that you're basically Space Jesus and the chosen one who's going to save the universe. But I'll tell you what, not once during the 140 odd hours that I've spent in Starbound did I give half a flying fuck about the universe's imminent destruction. I just wanted to build and explore. You know, sandbox stuff. If you're gonna try and have some sort of character development in this game, why not let the player go down a number of different paths? You want to be a space pirate, a mercenary, a traveling merchant, something actually cool and interesting? Well, too bad, you're Space Jesus. Having a storyline in your sandbox game detracts from a sandbox's most redeeming feature, replayability. Putting a linear storyline in a game like Starbound that is meant to have unlimited content is possibly the most dumbfounding thing Chucklefish have done to this game. But building is fun, and settlement building is a thing. So you can be a colonist and have colonists come to your settlement via colony deeds, and it's all good and we're a happy little sandbox again now, right? No, we're not. Colonists that move in are practically just sprites. They have what I like to call Starbound syndrome, which is a condition I've coined where an NPC only has one line of dialogue. Simple colonist NPCs are practically useless, except for the minuscule amount of rent you can collect from them every now and again, and that you can recruit them after doing one of two possible quest templates that they might randomly give you, but even then, crew size is very limited. You can have guard colonists which serve at least some purpose, despite their AI being completely brain dead, and merchant colonists which have a very selected amount of items they sell, most of which are usually useless, and are really only good for selling stuff too. It's all well and good to build a settlement in this game, but it does not serve any real purpose other than simply a creative outlet, which isn't so bad, but it really could have been a great feature in this game. Exploration is a big part of Starbound's core, but it doesn't do it well. It is tedious and uninspired. So many of the planets are just palette swaps of another with a few mini dungeons or random huts and buildings dotted across the surface. This ties into another thing that I hate about this game, the lack of blank canvases for you to build on. And before you start screaming "my barren planets" like the comment section did on my other video, what if I wanted to build a nice settlement on a forested planet, or a swampy planet, or something other than a literal wasteland? Well, that'd be a shame, because most of the time there's a giant prison or city that takes up half of the planet's surface. Fantastic. It also just doesn't make sense that there's random buildings scattered across the galaxy with no coherence with any of the other random buildings scattered across the galaxy. I get that it's hard to get exploration to be super engaging in a game with a limitless world, but it basically has not changed since I bought the game in early access. Chucklefish are not even trying. The real exploration in this game comes down to doing the terrible main storyline where you have to travel around and look at enough stuff to fill up your "how much stuff have I looked at" bar, until you can progress further and do it again. Real engaging gameplay. There's just a bunch of quality of life annoyances in Starbound in general. For example, why is crafting not instant? It's just obnoxiously irritating to have this in your game when it serves no real gameplay purpose other than making you stay in the menu for longer than should be necessary. Why are cutscenes not skippable? Why do they have to take so long? Why does this game hate replayability so much? The combat system in Starbound is abysmal. It also isn't helped by the clunky maneuverability of your character, who seems to be on roller skates at all times unless you're holding shift to be at a really slow walking pace. Controlling your character is really difficult when you're in combat, and even just traversing landscapes can be a chore simply because of how hard it can be to control your character when you're jumping around or trying to make precise movements. Coming back to the combat, however, it's a few different weapon types with a few different abilities with a bunch of copy-paste enemies with brain-dead AI controlling them. It's unengaging and simply is more a chore than a feature in Starbound. What could have been interesting were the bosses, but they're all incredibly easy. The combat animations are all really clunky as well, which definitely adds to what makes the combat feel clunky in general, and isn't helped by the way that entities have the tendency to lag around the place. Oh, did I mention that this game is laggy for some reason? I don't know how Chucklefish have been able to pull off this feat, but they've managed to optimize this game so poorly that you get entity lag and frame drops even on high-end machines. Multiplayer in video games is fun, right? Playing multiplayer is fun, and it's certainly more fun to play multiplayer than it is to play single player in Starbound. But there is absolutely no effort on Chucklefish's part to in any way streamline or optimize the gameplay for it. Quest progression is still per character, rather than having it be for the entire party, which is just an annoyance. There's no way to have a singular crew or ship or anything like that, and multiplayer often ends up getting messy because of it. This could have been where this game really shines, but it's just mediocre. Starbound has Steam Workshop support, and thank God it does, because there are mods that really expand on the game and make it worth playing. But that's just it. The game needs mods to be worth playing. If a game needs mods to be good, wouldn't that imply that it's, well, not good? If it weren't for mods such as Frackin' Universe and Instant Crafting, I could simply not recommend buying this game whatsoever. And what does that say about Chucklefish's credibility as a developer? In the end, Starbound was a game with potential, but it never really delivered on that promise. Even 5 years down the track, we're still left with a game that does not feel complete. There are still so many things about this game that need work, so many core mechanics that simply turn me away from being able to enjoy it. For me, Starbound is a game that struggles to have a clear identity. Is it a sandbox? Is it an RPG? I don't know. It does not stick to its guns as a sandbox, and instead shoehorns this horrid storyline with no real character progression or choice, which really just kills the mood. I got a comment on my original Starbound review that suggested that if you just simply ignore the bad things about Starbound, then it's a good game. And you know what? That's totally right. This game is a broken piece of shit. This is one of the greatest video games of all time. I think that comment really sums up Starbound for me. If you ignore the fact that despite it hitting 1.0 a while ago, it is still an unfinished mess, if you ignore the fact that multiple mechanics in the game are useless or broken, if you ignore the fact that the exploration that the game builds itself around is repetitive and boring, and if you ignore the fact that it goes against the very concepts that make a good sandbox game, it's fantastic. Alas, some of us do not enjoy having to pretend to have fun when we're playing video games, and do not see past these issues, and it is clear that Starbound is not the game that it was all originally cracked up to be. In an industry like the games industry, when products, especially those released in early access like Starbound was, can be so hit and miss, Starbound is a miss for me. This game really needs an overhaul and some polish before it can be something truly magical, because underneath the pile of issues and annoyances Starbound has, there is something magical. And believe me when I say that it hurts me to know that it has not lived up to its potential.